And so then when it did come out, we went through different organizations that absolutely failed me. And that's why I feel it's so important to speak my story, to tell my story, because we need to bring that awareness out, because we can't keep failing these children. I had dropped out of high school at 15, and because of my history, and went back to college, or back to high school when my kids were little, got my diploma, and I did college. In late 20s, I started and got my degree in accounting, and just really moved forward with that field, and then found a work from home business that I am now doing, and have the freedom to be there with my grandkids, with my kids, and just loving life now. So it's been quite a journey. It started at the age of 6. I went through sexual abuse by my stepfather. And it started right after my mom and him got married. And it went on for many, many years. And the signs were there, but nobody picked up on them. And this went through until approximately the age of 12. And I said things to my mom, but they just kind of went by the wayside, you know. And at that point in my life, it was, well, just make sure you're not alone with him. Don't be in the room with him, and that type of thing. But then she would leave. And so it was a constant fear. And then this went on until I told a friend, and the friend told their parent, and the parent confronted my mom. And so it came out. I went through the police interview. I went through the medical exam. And at 12 years old, that was so horrific. I mean, it was so scary. And all along, I was made to feel it was my fault. All along, I was given that guilt. I was told that if I said anything, I'd break up the family. Nobody would believe me. And so I kept it in, you know, all those years. After all of that went through, we went through an organization that was in the town I lived in, Grand Haven, Michigan, and we're basically given the option to either live in our car or go back to the abuser. And so we had left for a while, stayed with some friends, and then my mom went back. And in the process, he got 3 years probation. That was it. And then we were back in the home with him. Not once, not one time did CPS come to our home. The organization that we went through was 4 women. 4 women, and I'm not going to name names, but it was 4 women to help women in domestic violence situations, help women that their children had been abused. And we were basically told, we don't have room for you. And now as an adult, now looking back, I'm like, a hotel back then was like $25. You know what I'm saying? And there was nothing. And so then from that situation, I was put back in the home. The abuse wasn't the same, but it was still ongoing. And I was forced into family counseling, to where I had to sit in the same circle with him. And so I knew if I said anything, if I brought it out, it would end up, I would suffer when I got home. At the age of 15, I left. I ran away. My mom called the cops, and they basically told her, let her be. I was working full time. I was renting a room from somebody, you know, and so it was my way of escape. The mental aspect, the guilt, the nobody believed me, you know, feeling that I had. It was, oh, you're just making this bigger than it is. You're making it sound,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're making it sound worse than it is. And I started at the age of 15, started self-abuse. I would do things to harm myself, to punish myself. I felt like I had to punish myself, and I was just very depressed, very lost. I felt like I didn't fit in with anybody, like I was completely alone. And at the age of 15, I tried to take my own life. I tried to take the anxiety medications that I was given from the doctor to just get over it. That's basically this started in the late 70s, early 80s. So back then it was, you don't talk about it. Push it under the rug, keep going on with life. And I think the hardest thing for me was dealing with the fact that my family knew and they were still okay with him. To this day, they're still okay with him. I had the guilt of my mom because she's my mother. I love her. But once I became a mom, it was like, wow, wait a minute. There was so much wrong.
Mm-hmm.
At the age of 16, I became an alcoholic. That was my way to hide. And so every night I was drinking, jumping from one bad relationship to another. I attracted those men in my life. I attracted the same type of people that were going to manipulate my emotions, be physically abusive. I had my first child at 19. I got married, had my first child, and my husband was extremely abusive. And I went with bald spots. I went with bruises and wearing turtlenecks in July. The thing that I want to be able to help people with this is to get that help early. I went, like I said, I'm almost 51 years old. And literally the past 3 years of my life, I found myself. The past 3 years of my life, I started that healing process. The past 3 years of my life, I have determined that I want to make a difference. I want to be a voice. And what is so frustrating is it's like the forbidden conversation. Nobody wants to talk about it. It's going on right in front of your eyes, so often. I see like one girl make a post and say something about abuse that they had went through, and then all the comments, all the women and men that have went through the same thing, but nobody talks about it because of the fear. The fear of what people are going to think of you, the fear of how people are going to treat you. And people have distanced themselves. When I open up, people like, yeah. You see people distance themselves. It's like, oh, this is damaged goods, and it changed the path of my life. I think my firstborn child literally saved my life, because I had someone that I needed to love, that I wanted to love, someone that I wanted to protect. And I made it an oath to protect my children at all costs. And throughout my life, even as a mother, I was still suffering with the anxiety, the depression, but I hid it because that's what you're taught to do. Emotional trauma as much as it is the physical. And you carry that, and if I said that it still doesn't affect me, I would absolutely be lying. But I look back, I look at my grandchildren. Sorry, I don't mean to be emotional.
It's okay. It is okay.
I look at my grandchildren that are 6 years old, and I can't fathom it. I just can't fathom it. And it makes me angry. But it also makes me motivated. And, we're seeing so much now, so much more coming out lately on trafficking, on abuse. You don't see domestic violence on the news until that person's dead, until something severely happens to somebody, till they're hurt to the point of being hospitalized or buried. And we need to stand up. We need to stand up. We need to quit being embarrassed. We need to quit being afraid, because there's people out there that's going through the same thing.
A lot of people, a lot.
And the thing is, Symone, what really just is mind-blowing is the fact that that broken system that I went through in the 70s and 80s is not much better now.
Yep. It's infuriating. It's infuriating. Every survivor that I talk to has had pretty much the same issue that you had and that I had. Archaic, broken, patriarchal system that was built by the wealthy, by the strong, to maintain power. And the facade is that we are here to help you reach out, we fight for the victim, and then you get blindsided by the time you get there. It's just even more abuse by the time you get to the system. It's insane.
I try to be understanding with my mom. And a part of me wonders if that system wouldn't have been so broke, if that system would have been there, if those organizations would have been there for us, would my mom have been able to move forward? Would she have been able to carry on? Because she wasn't a working mother. She was a stay-at-home mom. So then all of a sudden there's rent, there's food, there's bills, and she didn't have that experience. She didn't have that, and she'd come from a broken home. I feel that God really lifted me. Obviously he had a reason for me to still be here, because otherwise at 15, I would have been a statistic. And now I use the pain, I use the memories as my strength to move forward, and my strength to show that you can overcome, you can survive. And I really feel that what you're doing is absolutely amazing. God bless you. Just bringing that awareness and that support. Look at the times we're in right now. Families are struggling to survive right now. So as a single mother who may not have an education, who may not have that work experience, to try to, support her children or even support herself on minimum wage, and what they can make, we know that doesn't pay your bills.
No.
That doesn't pay your bills. My husband and I have an amazing husband now. And it's funny because he was not my type. He was not, we were like polar opposites. He's very outspoken, very blunt. We have the most awesome relationship. I finally have my best friend and soulmate, and that's something I never thought, would be possible for me. So it has been a definite blessing, and that's why I want to use my blessings to bless others. With my at-home business, I share my testimony because I went natural, and as far as my healing, but I also found that mindset is huge, and I had to learn to love myself. I started 3 years ago. And it was hard because I'm like, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to make a difference for me. I had a lot of encouragement from my husband, but you can do it on your own. You can. I read a lot of daily affirmations. I listened to speakers, to people that were teaching me to love myself. I still get triggers. There's still certain things that just kind of send me over, you know what I'm saying? That brings me right back. It's like right back in the past. And when I get to that, I've learned to reflect on everything that I do have that is a blessing. Everything I do have that it's positive. When I start feeling negative, when I start feeling down on myself, I remember my grandchildren. I think of what it feels like when they're hugging me, when those precious little arms are around my neck. You know what I'm saying? I remember that I have a roof over my head. And there were so many times growing up and even into my early adulthood that I didn't know if I would have a roof over my head from day to day. Because if I did leave the situation, I would have to either go back and live with my mom and stepdad or fight to find a place of my own. And back then, I didn't have that education. You know, in so many places, if you don't have a high school diploma, they wouldn't hire you.
Yeah.
You know, so I waited tables and I bartended. And guess what? When you're depressed and you're going through anxiety and you're trying to overcome trauma and you work in a bar.
Yeah.
And where do you think I was dating people from? People that were in that situation. Mm-hmm. So I was just keeping myself in that vicious circle. Mm-hmm. And it came to the point that I moved away from everybody. I moved away. It's only an hour, but I moved away and I started fresh. I needed that break mentally. And I was still struggling and I was still in that vicious circle that I was in. But I think that was the first step, was just that separation and getting away from the people and the things that were keeping me in my past. When I went through the counseling growing up, I had a male counselor. I felt uncomfortable. I felt like I was embarrassed. I was 12 years old. You know, to talk about sexual abuse was so horrifying. It was almost as horrifying as going through it. And so it was like being traumatized all over again. And that's why I went so long without seeking help, because I was traumatized by the help that I did receive, by the way the system was, you know, back then. And like I said, nobody ever checked on me. Nobody came to the school. It was in the newspapers. You can't tell me that people didn't know. Nobody asked, why the hell are you still in this house? Excuse my language, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
But it's mind-blowing to me.
I don't get that at all. I don't.
No. He was arrested only for one thing, because his work was aware of the charges. He called and asked about his life insurance policy. So his work sent a wellness check to the home. We weren't there. They put him on a suicide watch. Spent one night in jail. Went to court and got 3 years probation. To this day, and I think this is going to be part of my healing, is I've never seen the court records, the court documents. And it's something that I need to see. I need to know why. I need to understand and comprehend how. Somebody that gets arrested with, say, a bag of marijuana can spend 3 years in jail. But somebody who abuses a child, no jail time, 3 years probation, have a good life.
And then goes back and right back in the home with his family.
But how do we fix it?
Organizations are trying, and there are a lot of boots on the ground that are trying and linking arms and collaborating and going at it from every possible angle that you can think of, from person to person to politically to just everything you could think of. And you think you're moving forward, you think you're making real ground, and then all of a sudden, here comes some red tape or some politics or some major barrier that is put there just to maintain power, just because those people who are in power don't want to deal with it because it might compromise their position.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in politics, you're in these, you're there for the people, not for yourself. You're there for the people. Do your job.
The government has forgot that they're there for the people, not for political clout, not for personal agendas, you know, and not wanting to ruffle feathers. So in return, who's suffering? I mean, you look at CPS, how they failed me, how the women organization failed me. Why didn't somebody there say, hey, this woman just took this child back to her abuser? Why didn't somebody say that? Why didn't the school check on me? It was in the newspapers. Why didn't CPS check on me? And I hear, you know, you always hear, oh, they're just so busy. How many children are dying? How many children are being abused because reports have been made and nothing was done? There was no checkup. Or they go in the home and they ask the child in front of the abuser, are they hurting you? Because that's basically what happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I went through that counseling. You can't even call it counseling. It was a joke. It was, you know, we got pushed into it was called Operation Fresh Start.
Oh, really?
In Grand Haven, Michigan, ran by Adrian DeVos, and yes, he's related to the rest of them. And I basically called it a cult. It was a church. They went by the book called The Way. Mm-hmm. And he would take scripture out of this, because The Way was like taking the Bible and putting it more in layman's terms, is the way they explained it. But he would take scripture and he would rewrite it. The entire church was domestic violence abusers and child abusers. So now you've got all of these. Now I'm surrounded not by one pervert, but 12 or 13 of them. Kids were put in a room and the adults were around what is called a round table. And then I'll never forget, we were all called in, the kids, to sit with our family around the round table. And we were told that it's God's word that we needed to be submissive to our Father. So it wasn't just what I was going through at home. And how can these people, I mean, they operated as a church, as a business. And nobody saw anything wrong with it? I mean, obviously they're not there anymore. But it was like one thing after another. You know, there was so many failures all along, so many times that someone could have intercepted.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you. You know, and that's why I share my story. Because every time I hear something on the news, every time I see something about the trafficking and domestic abuse and nothing is being done, it just makes me so angry. But at the same time, feel so helpless.
Yeah. Because it's not something that should be happening at all.
No.
And then
find somebody that touches your soul, somebody that speaks to you so deep that you get goosebumps on your arms, that speaks to you so deep that the tears are rolling, because you need to find that person or that book or, you know, that speaker that just turns you into nothing but wanting to focus on yourself, that wants you to be able to find that healing. And, you know, as I said, the counseling and all that failed me. So I had to try to do it on my own. I had to do it by myself because I didn't trust them. I didn't trust the system. I didn't trust the people, you know, that were supposed to be counselors for victims. And they victimized me as well. All those years of just trying to hide it, holding it in, pretending everything's okay. And I'm going to be the first one to tell you it's the worst thing you can do. It's the worst thing you can do, because what it did was it was just eating me up inside. And I was a walking time bomb. You know, my suggestion is to find something that helps you, somebody that can relate and understand what you're going through. There was a book that I read, Codependent No More.
That was just mentioned to me yesterday.
Was it? Yes. You know, that was like the first book that I read to start that, you know, that process. And because that's the thing, is when you have been a victim, you continue to live as a victim. And it's like that is your, what you feel your outlook is, your personality is, you know, everything you do is revolved around that. And to be able to, number one, be out of the situation, but then to have the support. You know, I'm not going to live in regret of what if, you know, be this person that is going to be like, I didn't have support, and, you know, I just can't, you know, blame it all on everything I do on that. I feel that the knowledge I have from the failures is where I need to start working towards making a difference. We need more family-oriented women's, and I'm not going to just say women, because it happens to young men, it happens to young boys as well. But there needs to be a safe place, a means of getting out, a means of having support, and being able to talk to somebody and tell them how you feel, and they understand. Even now, I work from home, you know, so I have a little more freedom. My kids are grown, so I'm not going through that anymore. But like, I put things in my planner so I can see, okay, these days are free. Or even, I know as a mother of 3 boys, and I'm sure you're the same way, just to have 20 minutes to soak in a bathtub was huge.
Amazing. That is my thing.
Without fingers under the door.
Yeah.
I would have, my boys would like literally slide their Matchbox cars under the door if I wasn't answering them. You know, I'd get out of the tub and I'd have all these toys in front of the door, because they had to talk. You know, they always got a question.
Yeah.
Just one question. But put down your, I mean, I'm sure you've got your schedule down, but in that schedule celebrate, you know, celebration days or relaxation. One day can make such a huge difference. You know, I go every day. You know, I'm picking one grandchild up and dropping them off at their daycare and picking the other grandchild up. And my husband, he's working 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. now. So like trying to make sure he's eating before he goes to work, and then working my business, you know, so I have a team. So I'm focusing on everybody. And it's like, which makes me happy. Don't get me wrong. I love doing it. But then it's like, all of a sudden I'm like, when do you do anything for yourself?
And that's where I know the self-help thing, it's in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there's only so much time in a day.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, the week is gone. And what did I do for myself? What? Nothing. And
right.
you know, the one thing that I know that makes me is acting, is doing my acting, doing my screenwriting. If I could just get to do that, because like, let me just tell you, the young lady that I'm working with sent me the script for a TV show that I've written, and I felt once I read it, and after I read it, and I've been thinking about it, and my wheels were turning, I stopped, and I just sat in the space. I was completely unburdened. I was completely free. The fear and anxiety, whatever it was I was feeling that day, because I remember I was feeling kind of like I am kind of like today.
Right.
Gone. And I know that that's how that makes me feel. If I could just do that and do EyeOnDV and take care of my son.
Right.
And have God.
Make that your goal. Write it down. Speak it out every single day. Write every single goal down. Every single day, write that goal down. But set those goals and know that that's where you want to be. That this struggle right now is only short term. Because you're making your long-term goal a reality. Because if anybody deserves it, it's you. Girl, you're working your butt off. You're inspiring. You're helping other people. You're motivating other people. It's your turn. All you got to do is be open to accept the blessing. Quit blocking your blessings, because you deserve it. You're worthy of it. Put sticky notes all over. I am worthy. I am deserving. Every time you go in the bathroom, have one on your mirror. When you go to bed at night, have one on your nightstand. When you get in your car, have one sitting on your center console. I am worthy. I am deserving. Because I truly feel that we block our own blessings because we don't feel we're worthy of it. We don't feel that we're deserving of nothing but struggle. And you're worthy. Yeah, this has absolutely been a blessing today. It really has. And I thank you so much. Very emotional, very raw, but very powerful, I think. And it felt so good to get that out. It really did. Like I said, it feels like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, you know, just in this little bit of time. And
oh my gosh, thank you so much. You are just you are such a bright star, and you're so strong, and your story is so inspirational. And to see you come out on the other end and have love and have produced love and continuing to give and wanting so badly to advocate for others and use your platform, and you're a wonderful lady, and I'm so grateful to have met you and to have you in my life now. So
thank you so much. I feel blessed having you too, and I thank you so much. We definitely need to keep the chats going, and I truly think that we're gonna end up seeing each other down this road further too. I mean, really, because it's put so many thoughts and ideas in my head, and just to keep raising that awareness. And I think it's huge. We just need to keep up the good fight and keep moving, because we just got to keep going, and people are going to eventually listen.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? People will eventually listen, and you're doing amazing things. So I'm very proud of you. Blessed to have met you.
You too. Thank you so much.